I know, but you know what also the cool part is? Like, it just goes to show, when she leaves, how bad November sucks. Like, they're gonna,
Huskers are all the
they're
same.
gonna like suck
All the
so
same.
bad.
Just like last year when Rule was gonna destroy Iowa. Now, I know Iowa looked pathetic in that game. They won by a fluke, but they still won. Remember you had to wear that Iowa shirt for a week?
I remember.
We got pictures, maybe I can see them.
You're gonna be crying, you gotta wear a Nebraska shirt and your Nebraska flag in your business.
I have my downside, I won't bet.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'm not gonna let this Iowa-Nebraska thing escalate anymore. We're gonna call the meeting to order.
Gotcha.
We'll start with the routine business on the northwest wall. We have the Open Meetings Act posted as always. You can check that out as you like.
We'll do it afterwards.
Lisa, would you call the roll, please?
Dustin,
Here.
Sean,
Here.
Brad,
Here.
Kent.
Here.
Everybody's present and accounted for. Would you join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, folks. Move on to the consent agenda. As always, you can approve all the items in one motion, or you can consider them separately if you desire.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Go ahead and call the roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Dustin.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to the next, the mayor's appointments and report. I really don't have much to report tonight, other than happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Keep
Try
it
to
happy by keeping
We'll
it
try to
moving.
keep the meeting moving, so you can all join your Valentine tonight. And with that, I'll move on to the appointments. I did get a chance to talk to the three folks on the loan committee whose terms had expired. Kathy Palmer, Jim Arns, and Bob Maxwell all agreed to accept another term. They've been doing a good job for us, so that's my recommendation.
I would move that we approve the mayor's recommendation for the LB 840 loan committee for Kathy Clommer, Jim Arns, and Bob Maxwell for 3-year terms.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Go ahead and call the roll.
Brad,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. No public hearings tonight. Amazingly, no old business. We must have been wrapping stuff up last month. That's good. We didn't leave anything hanging. Move on to the regular agenda. The first item is to discuss and consider the construction and management contract with Central Nebraska Economic Development District for the North Main Street project. I don't know who wants to start. If
Amber's here.
Okay,
Brad's here.
sure. So quick update on the project, and Lisa might have put it in her stuff, but I talked to Jess from Olson, the engineer on the project, and they are currently staking out the project, and then he's hoping that they can start construction either yet this week or first part of next week. I will come up several times throughout the project, 3 times to be precise, and do worker interviews. And that is what this contract is for, essentially. There's some other pieces to it we have to do. I work with the folks at Myers to review payroll and manage all the Davis-Bacon rules and requirements. And so this contract is different than the general administration contract that we approved originally, but it's specifically for everything relating to the construction part of the project, which is where we're at now. That's why we're doing this now. So that's what it is. And none of the match that you guys, that the city is putting toward the north part of this project will go to this contract. This contract is entirely paid out by the grant amount. So, none of it will come from your monies, it will come from the state's monies, just to keep that clear, so. Questions?
You wanna add anything, Lisa, or?
Not really, I just, other than today's developments, Myers, they've been moving in pipe and stuff for the last couple of weeks, and they were gonna actually get started today. And, well, yesterday, to be clear, and found some snafus with the starting connection at the treatment plant, so we're at change order number 1 already before it's a really good start to the project.
Maybe that'll be the only one.
Probably the only one.
And just also, they're gonna be like 2 to 3 weeks probably at the plant before they really start moving south from there, so we will be getting together with Myers Construction here over the next week and getting a plan ironed out for the residents in that area so they can kind of know what to expect, I guess, as the project moves forward. And for garbage services, because obviously that's going to be affected in the area as well. So we'll probably come up with a public service announcement at some point here in the next week or 2. So people in the area kind of know what's happening.
And to remember, the CDBG portion of the project is just from the highway north, nothing south. I know most of you know that, but let me reiterate that again. So we have to finish the north part before we can finish the south part. You can't have them going at the same time, or else it kind of mixes up with Davis-Bacon rules, which you don't want to do, I promise. So that little note there.
Okay, so I think basically we're looking for a motion to approve or authorize the mayor to sign this contract with CNA.
Amber, remind us your last name.
Ross, R-O-S-S.
I'll make a motion to allow the mayor to sign documents with CNED to move forward with the North Main Street project.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Go ahead and call the roll.
Kent,
Aye.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Alrighty, next we'll move on to discuss and consider administrative subdivision request for Township 30 North, Range 22 West of the 6-time meridian. In section 23, which I understand is a tract of land on the north edge of town, south of the wastewater treatment plant.
And that's just right along that road, right? Just adjacent to that road, going down to the treatment plant?
It's along that road, I don't know that it's right along, is it? It is directly
It is,
adjacent to the road.
Is that where the pond is? That area over there?
No, so it'd be just south of the treatment plant on North Main
Oh,
Street.
south. Okay.
And it is in the 1 mile, it's just outside the city's corporate boundaries, but because it's within the 1 mile, it's under our zoning purview. I don't know if anybody has any questions?
I kinda looked it up on the map, kinda that area and stuff, so yeah, no, I don't have any problem with that either.
So you're taking one tract and turning it into 2, you have the dimensions of the 2 that are created. I have a hard time reading these surveys.
Small
So,
print.
Yeah.
the original tract is how many acres? Steve, do you know?
It's just over 2 acres, 2 point. On the original.
Yeah, they were,
You don't
It's,
all.
Right,
the new tract that's being created is 2.15 acres.
right.
I think the original tract is probably closer to what, 3-4 times that size?
Says 10.6.
10.6 acres.
Yep, 10.68. You're not, yeah, right
So you're just sectioning off that 2-acre piece
Right.
is what you're doing. As its own lot.
there. I talked to Lisa about, it. She didn't really see any issues with it, any concerns, but,
No.
Sounds good to me.
And it's your property, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
They want sewer and water down the road, it's gonna be right there along. It'll be pretty easy street. Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the administrative subdivision request for Township 30 North, Range 22, west of the 6PN in Brown County, Nebraska, Section 23, and adjacent tract of land located in the southeast quarter.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call roll.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. All right, move on. The next item is to discuss proposal for armor coat.
What was the, what was
what was what?
it? The price
This one is $1.67 per square yard. I think last year it was closer to $1.60. Like $1.59 or something like that last year.
I thought oil was going down.
Thank you for selling
But
it.
labor's going up.
Gas has been going up lately.
Okay, the one you gave me says the 2023 was 159.8. So what's this year's?
This year's is $1.67.
Okay.
It was just in,
Oh, okay, I see. Oh, okay. So it is what it is.
We furnish the, all of the gravel, so this is just the armor coat. You know, it's just, it is what it is, I think.
we don't have an idea right now on how many square yards we're planning on doing, do we?
Well, every year we budget about $65,000. Of course, what that gets us shrinks a little bit every year because the price keeps going up. You know, that used to get us about 30 blocks when it was more around $1.20 to $1.30 per yard. So we're probably only gonna get 20-some blocks out of that. The guys do a pretty good job of leveraging it, I guess, when they come by. Usually they come in September. So, you know, the way the billing falls, sometimes we can put part in one year and carry over part into the next year, and so we can get by with actually doing more blocks at one time because we're splitting 2 fiscal years. Which is what we did last year, and we did do like 30 or 32 blocks last year.
Yeah, we have to definitely continue to do this. It's just a small Band-Aid on a big problem we have on our streets.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal, I mean, to be honest, but it's, if you don't do it,
Yeah, we've gotta
Just have a
continue,
mess.
we gotta continue to do it, and, otherwise we're just gonna totally lose our streets. But yeah.
and hopefully once we get past these highway projects, you know, like we've talked about, the next big project is probably gonna be some type of a paving district.
We do.
We definitely have to get in the paving district and get that thing started. Top Coat seems to have been a pretty decent company to work with and do a good job. He knows our streets and stuff like that, kind of knows what's
How
happening.
many years have they been doing it?
ever since I've been on it.
We've been doing it ever since I've been here, I think long before I was here, so.
Did you probably try to gather bids or something to see if it's comparable, or did you just check with Top Coat?
I mostly just checked with Top Coat. We had, you know, when it flooded, we had Tri-State,
And we didn't like that at all.
and I did not think that they did as good of a job.
That was just asphalting, though. They just come in, they
No,
didn't do
they
any,
did some armor
they
coat.
did just model form to them too. Okay.
County's had 2-3 companies, but at Top, Dan's usually, if he's not right there competitive, he's very close and they.
Does
trust
he
him
do the
more.
county when he does ours?
He does some work for the county, I guess I don't know if he.
They don't do it every year, then.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with what I've seen so far of what he's done, so.
Is this something we have to put out for bids or not?
He likes us to lock, he says that when we sign the proposal, you know, it locks in the price. So if the oil goes up, he still guarantees us this price. So that's the benefit, I guess, of going through the exercise of having it formally accepted.
You know, I think we looked way back in the past when I was on it. It wasn't much different, Dustin. I mean, you can.
But yeah,
It's like
I'm
finding
agree with what you're
somebody.
saying, that are we legally obligated to go out for bids where we're spending
Oh, I don't know. Okay,
that,
sorry.
those kind of dollars?
Yeah, you're talking $65,000. I understand the probably company we always use and probably prefer, but, you know, I felt that maybe we should probably, is that something we have to quote out or should quote out? Because it seems to me we probably should.
What's our ordinance say as far as if we're spending that kind of dollar amount? Or can we actually, you can kind of backdoor that by saying, we're only spending that on this block and we're spending this on this block, and then we're below that threshold per block versus the whole project. And there's other ways, you know, you can look at it two different ways.
I don't know the state goes with that, 'cause they set the limits on when you have to go out for bid, dollar amount.
I thought we set our own in the city.
I don't know what it is for streets. I know there's a statutory requirement for, I think, water and sewer is like 80 or 85,000. Anything above that has to be engineered and bid.
You're also not approving the dollar amount that you're gonna spend,
Exactly.
you're just approving the price per yard, I think is the difference. You're not approving a
We could
$50,000
spend
or
nothing.
$60,000 contract here, you're just getting a price quote. Yeah, if you wanna get other price quotes, that's certainly something you look at. But as far as what you're talking about with having to bid, I think
Why
where
is-
you're not actually,
We're not actually trying to spend 65,000 or.
well, you're not signing a contract to spend 65,000, you're just locking in a price, which if you wait and do that when you're ready to do it, the price of oil in the
Goes up.
summer
Yeah,
typically is
and
higher.
it could be, it might so happen, and maybe we're only gonna be able to do 10 blocks. And then we're way below than our
So like,
threshold then.
we might, right, we'll figure, we'll do 10 blocks or 2 blocks or 50 blocks, that's what it is.
Mhm.
So we can get this, you can almost get this price quote guarantee from any company?
Probably.
Because we're not obligated to use these guys, right, they're just, or are we?
No, you're not obligated to. It's just probably a staff recommendation to use them.
And this is what they're quoting us, if you use us, then
Correct.
it's
As
gonna cost
the
this.
price goes up, now, I don't think it will, but what happens when the price goes down? We're still locked in at $1.67.
Probably, knowing Dan, if the price goes down, he'd probably give us the lower price,
Which I don't see it going down, of course,
but
It's been going up,
but, yeah.
Dan's done work for us for years. We've spent a lot of money with Dan. He treats us pretty good for the most part.
They waited, the county last week waited, somebody was late getting they just got their oil prices in, so they submitted a bid. It was mailed on the due date, so it was, but they didn't have it in front of them at the meeting, so they just held off opening theirs, and I'm not sure if they had more than one. Otherwise, other than this one that had contacted them and said they had just put a bid in the mail because they had just got their oil prices lined up, so, and I think they were maybe out of Iowa that was bidding for the county job. So they'll open next Tuesday. If you're curious, you can see they'll open theirs next Tuesday.
That's some armor coating for the county?
Armor Coating County paved roads, yeah. Dan's typically done it, but he hasn't done it every year for them. They've gone to a couple other companies at times. There was a Stay Built maybe out of Iowa, or one out of, and Dan's out of South Dakota. And I think they went with somebody else one year, and I think they went right back to Dan after that.
I was gonna say, we had Tri-State in the flooding, and we weren't really very happy with what they did, so then we had Top Coat come back and do the rest of what needed to be done.
Who tells us that they actually put it on at that rate? 'Cause I wouldn't know.
Well, when they bill us,
I know, but you know, like you always have your state inspectors come and want to do the highway. How do you know they're putting it on at a rate of .3 gallons per square yard?
well, I would hope that our street department crew is overseeing what they're doing. I mean, and I think they do. I mean, I think Kevin oversees that, works with Dan, because we're giving them the gravel, so we're working with them for the most part a lot of times. I think if they were doing something suspect, our guys would probably know that wasn't the right thing. And usually when we get the bill, it lays it out, how many square yards, how many blocks they did.
We're not taking core samples.
No,
Yeah.
The streets can't.
I don't know how deep your core is gonna be on Armor Coating.
I mean, it is kind of a trust factor when we work with them. I guess, yeah, you'd let us know. if
and I
you
would
have
say
any.
one of the complaints that we had about Tri-State when we had them was that. It was really thin, it was very watery. The gravel didn't adhere to it well, so it didn't give a good shell, and so it cracked really easily. It didn't last as long. But they used a little bit different type of a product too. Top Coat's product is a very oil-based product. I think what Tri-State was using was kind of like a half and half type product. Cheaper, but not as good.
That's all the questions I had.
I move we accept Top Coat's proposal for stated amount, 1.673 square yard.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Go ahead, call the roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dustin.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Moving on, we'll consider grant application to the Brown County Community Foundation Fund for the Main Street project.
So, mostly I just kind of wanted to make sure that you, the council, were on board with the idea before I submitted it. But I'd like to submit an application to the Community Foundation for the downtown improvements. You know, we did not get the $433,000 DTR grant, so we really don't have a lot of grant funding, I would say, for the south portion. A lot of it is aesthetic improvements, and, you know, as important as that is to the community as a whole for a variety of reasons, there's not a lot of big funding opportunities for those types of improvements. So outside of local, and some of the smaller, like the State Arboretum and things for the landscaping and game and parks, I think there's some things there that we're still gonna go after and apply for. But I know when Vance was on the council, he and I had talked about this, and that really this probably would fit within some of the purview of the Community Foundation. I'm not real familiar with their grant process, you know, in terms of
It's pretty simple.
what kind of a request the city might want to make to them. Of course, our improvements are around $1.2 million. Of course, we're not gonna ask for that amount of money. I don't know if you guys have a a dollar amount that you think is appropriate that you might wanna ask for. Or if anybody has any ideas on that, or.
Do they say anything on a realistic note, like what they realistically might award us?
I haven't talked to them
Any insight on that?
really.
I can tell you from working with them in the past, are you
Yeah,
on there?
I'm on it, I will.
What do you think, about 20,000 a year is about the most I've seen, and then now they've done some multi-year commitments at times, but
So, don't quote me on this, because it changes every year, but
80-some thousand is what you
yeah,
have to work
70
with?
to 80,000 in funds is what they receive from the community foundation, kind of depending on how the markets are, wouldn't that be
Yeah,
about
they're
right,
down.
Joel?
Yeah, I
At
was,
least it's gone up a little
I
since
was
you've
thinking
been
it
on
was
there.
climbing every year.
Yeah, it has.
since
So,
I was there.
variety of projects, so, yeah, if you go in, what, $250,000 in 1 year, I mean, foundation's just not that flush.
Yeah, and I
And not gonna
figured
give it all
that,
to one,
yeah.
because they spread it out to different communities and different
And
things.
it is substantial, I mean, when I first moved back, they were awarding that 10 to 15,000
Yeah,
range. So
it's-
the way they've built that
it's
endowment,
growing.
it's making some impactful, they're really being able to make some impactful grants to different
So
places.
it'd be out of line to say like 25,000 then, or?
Well, I think I would suggest that we, and I know when I was on the foundation, this is something we talked about what could we do downtown beautification, so I really think it's something they would like to support. But what might make it easier for them would be if we came up with a segment of that, like
Mhm.
the lighting, the street lamps
Mhm.
are gonna cost $60,000, would you wanna support that, and, or maybe something else? But if we gave them a specific item on that project, that they could say, this is what our money's going
I think
to,
that's a great idea,
that might
yeah.
help sell it.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, excuse me, the South Main portion is kind of a two-phase project because we have the DOT project that's happening this year. And then there's the whole Pocket Park, mini park thing that's happening later.
That would be another thing, yeah.
So then I didn't know, did you want us to ask a multi-year commitment and say something for this south part and then something for the next Pocket Park, or didn't know how you thought it was appropriate to structure it? I don't wanna be greedy, and ask for, cause I know there's probably a lot of other worthy projects in
Yeah,
the
Ken, are
community.
you aware they had a lot of bigger applications that you know of yet?
On our meeting last week, not much yet, but this is, I forget what the deadline is, I think it's the 1st of
I
March.
think they
It's
awarded in
March.
So you
June,
need
so,
to-
yeah.
And then we'll work on them, and then they come out like end of June, so, is that right, Joel? You were on, sounds like.
I remembered March as the
Yeah.
applicant, I don't remember.
So,
when.
yeah, I would definitely recommend, once we decide that, Lisa, you get on the agenda at that next meeting, kind of
Well, I
talk
figured
it up,
tomorrow, I
because-
already have the application filled
Yeah.
out, except for basically a
Because
dollar
you can
amount.
ask for so much, and the committee can say, okay, well, we'll do this instead, we'll change the amount, or we'll do this over 2 or 3 years, or
I
whatever.
didn't know if you just leave it blank.
No, well,
Some people don't appreciate that.
I would make an ask, but I think Joel's comment about if you've got something that you can point to, like year 1, it would be towards this, and year 2, it might go towards that.
Or, like.
And they might stretch it out over 3 or 4 years.
Right, and then like, so go towards the poles or to the signs,
Yeah.
there's some pretty nice signs.
Because they did several years for the fishing pond, right, Greg?
2, yeah, we did I
Okay.
requested 40 for the fishing pond, and we did it over 2 award years at
They
20,000
did,
each year.
before I got on there, I think they did 4 or 5 years for the care center.
Yep, they did,
At
maybe
Don't
10
quote me.
each.
Yeah.
10-ish, yeah.
I think for
Sounds
the movie theater, they did something similar. It was like
They-
10
We
years.
did several years for the electrical hookups at the Brown County Fair for their trailers, for people's campers and trailers. They did that over several years, so. Come up with some,
Yeah, if you got like a couple, 3 things, well, this would cost this
Yeah.
much, this would, they might say, oh, we love this.
with some
And
options,
then they
it
put a sign up,
helps too,
city
depending on what
sponsored.
kind of requests you get for the
Yeah,
year, you know?
yeah, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, so I'd make it pretty broad, open-ended.
Yeah, I remember, I think we're gonna be putting some type of benches out there.
There'll be some in the mini park.
Also along Main Street too, that are removable, because maybe we talked about that, maybe we just talked about it, and it was all.
I think we just talked about it. I don't know that that's in the spec, because I think we thought we could do that later.
Okay,
And you could escalate it for later, too.
yeah, and that's what I think about that.
You always put in there tree removal.
Now, are you gonna report on what he says? And you're reporting to
Oh,
Mark what I'm
I
saying?
quote him every once in a while.
Ron Morrill said. You know how.
I just wanna go on record, I didn't have anything to
I
do
just call him an audience,
before I got
I
off
just
the
call him an
council.
audience member though, I don't point out his affiliation.
Wash my hands of it.
I think the total lighting cost was gonna be like 380,000 or 350,000.
What's just the poles?
Well, that's everything.
I
That's,
know, like, you don't have a breakdown of like, if there's X amount of poles and the poles cost $2,000 or $3,000.
I think there's 21 or
34, man.
21 poles.
I thought we
21
added two.
poles that are decorative.
Oh.
There's a couple past south of First Street that will not be decorative, that are still within the corporate boundary.
You can get out.
Unless, of course, he wants to pay for
Yes,
it.
we're just out in the boonies.
Well, I don't know if we need a motion or anything here, I mean, unless you want one, but I think you can
I
work
just
with.
wanted to make sure everybody was on board with that.
I'm on board with you, yeah, go ahead and get,
It's
applying
a-
for the grant, I think it's a good idea, and thank you for, bringing that up and trying to go
And,
after that, cause, since we didn't get that big grant, we're gonna need to find every place we can to, money to finish that the way we wanna have it looking when we're done.
Well,
Well, I'm just thinking, just because since you brought it up, and if the pole is X amount of dollars, there's probably businesses or whatever that would sponsor a pole, be like donated by KBRP.
well, we do have the
Now,
ARPA
it says on
money.
decorative, so you
Oh,
have
that's
to
right.
do it.
We have close to $300,000 in that ARPA money that needs to be spent. And one of the things that, in talking to Brad Slaughter when we did the highway bonds for the North Main project, lighting is really hard apparently to bond. It's not something that generally
I don't
can be
believe in it.
included. And so his recommendation had been that maybe we pull out the electrical and use the, maybe the ARPA funds to pay for that.
How much did you say, Lisa, that you have available on
It's
that?
like $290,000, I think roughly, 286, something
Okay.
like that.
We were doing what, we decided to do what, 3 poles, and kind of on the park side, on that first block, we're gonna decorate poles.
There's decorative poles gonna be from, 4th Street all the way to First Street, so those 3 blocks.
But then we decided to also go in the library block too.
I don't believe so,
Oh, we did? I thought we did.
no, because that was outside of
Right.
DOT's.
And I thought we was going.
Well, I thought you guys talked about tying
We talked about it,
one
but-
block
Yeah.
into the library to tie in with.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought we did it.
I thought, well, I remember the
Yeah, I thought we did
conversation.
that.
We might be able to do a change order on the
No, no,
project.
Yeah, no,
Number
I,
two.
I think we had already bid let the North
Okay.
Main, and DOT said they wouldn't allow it on their project because it was outside their scope.
I think we was doing 3 or 4 poles on the library side.
Well, if lighting's, come up with what your costs roughly are and put that in and.
Well, I was thinking we could do like the decorative hardscape if you wanted, the colored crosswalks, some things like that. I mean, all of that is itemized out basically in the plans. I don't have from DOT what the actual bid came in. All I still have are the engineered estimates.
Well,
Um,
that would be adequate.
Yeah, so I don't actually know what the final prices came in at, but.
Or if you do look at something for like you're talking about for that block north, maybe that's a small enough portion of it that would be palatable to the foundation. Like, hey, we couldn't include this in the south portion, but we'd like to tie in the block going to the library so that it looks similar
Uniform.
to downtown. then maybe that's something, if, see what a change, I don't know what a change order would be.
And
for
then,
that.
I know we even talked about the mini park, and since that's a park too, I think that's where funding possibly could come from the game and parks.
That part and down, the cowboy trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, what about, were the, like the welcome to Ainsworth type signs on the north and the south still part of that?
That's part of the phase 2,
Phase 2.
the mini park project.
Are you wanting us to give you a amount, or are you comfortable with us just saying, hey, give an
I
application?
think what you've said gives me direction. It helps that.
We probably just need a
you're
motion
kind of
to have you
involved and
apply
have
for this,
them.
probably just need a motion to apply for this grant.
Maybe
or not.
that would be good to show that, I guess, at least that you have approved the application, moving forward with the application.
I'll make a motion to have Lisa write a grant application for the Brown County Community Foundation Fund for the Main Street project.
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Call roll.
Brad,
Yes.
Ken,
I'll abstain.
okay, Dustin,
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0 with 1 abstention. And it was a nice open-ended motion, that gives her a lot of flexibility to talk to the foundation folks and see what fits and what might be a good way to go. Moving on to the city administrator report.
So, I don't know what I did all month, I mean, we were busy all month.
You should never be with that.
You know, I was writing the report and I'm thinking, gosh, what did we do? And we just did a lot of everyday stuff. It was just a lot of everyday stuff, being the end of the year. Just, you know, the normal W-2s and 1099s and filings and year-end reports to all of those that we are beholden to, which is more and more with the more projects that we do. So yeah, we got all of that accomplished. Myers Construction, as we mentioned earlier, is gonna be starting. We've already had some hiccups. Hopefully that's not indicative of the way the whole project will go. But hopefully in another week or two, we'll have a better feeling and have some more communications coming out about what's to come there in the next few weeks. And then the South project, of course, we've had several meetings and interactions about different things to plan. Of course, now that Myers is getting started late, there's some logistical hurdles, I would say, in terms of how we're gonna coordinate that hookup at 4th Street. It's probably illogical to think that Myers is gonna be done in a month's time. So, you know, we're trying to work with Olson to get a meeting with Rutgers Construction, who is the sub on the DOT for the water sewer, to try to figure out how that's gonna work. If they're starting on the north side and we're ending on that side, the timing is not ideal, obviously. So that's gonna be some more discussion here in the next week or so.
But that's all kind of Olson's to make sure that happens,
Well, I mean,
that the
at the end
connection is there.
At the end of the day, it's Myers' issue, I guess I would say. They bid the project knowing what the timeline was, and, you know, they waited until March to get going, so it's kind of,
They were supposed to start last October, wasn't it?
my fear is they're gonna try to come back and say, and this is speculation on my part, so I could be all wet, I hope I'm all wet. I'm afraid they're gonna come back and try to say there's gonna have to be some kind of a temporary connection, and then that's gonna cost the city XYZ, and I'm gonna say no.
That's not the
Yeah,
contract.
no, so I hope that's not,
An argument we have to get into.
yeah, we'll see, you know, like I said, Olson's trying to set up some meetings so that we can have those conversations and kind of, because I mean, the other scenario in my mind, unless I'm totally missing the boat, is, you know, there might be a delay on DOT, waiting for Myers to catch up, so
You know, kind of, with all that fog we had last week and stuff, and if ever all
Well,
the
now we're
old
supposed to
timers,
get snow.
you'd have all, you know, how much bushel we're gonna get in April
Fall.
and May, and
So I guess
You
we'll,
can't plan for it, it could be.
we'll just see. I mean, it might be like a whole to-do about nothing. I mean, maybe it'll end up working itself out, but. So yeah, there's just still a lot of ongoing coordination there. And then the housing thing has really kind of bothered me. I've been trying to do some research to try to figure out how we, the city, can help NCDC use those funds better or do different things. I've been having some different conversations with some different people to try to get different ideas. So, to be continued.
Yeah, it's tough. What we're running into is there are parameters for that workforce housing program. Well, their maximums are gonna make it brutally tough with building costs right now to try to fit something into those caps. And then on top of that, being able to sell something with current mortgage rates and
Now, is
those
this
types
all
of
with that
things.
money that we just raised?
That's the real workforce housing money, you know.
That the
so-
foundation matched and all that Kristen raised
Yes,
just recently?
yes,
Okay.
so we've gotta get something started and applications approved by May. We can request an extension, but I don't know, my goal as just one board member is not to have to turn that money back. I mean, we've gotta find a way to use it, whether it's the NCDC being an applicant for rehab projects, and even those have to meet a pretty strict set of standards to be able to go in and rehab some existing places. And it's, you know, there's just, for the applicants themselves, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, unfortunately. It's just not an easy process when you're working with state funds that have all these, so most of your contractors are busy. If you get some contractors that are interested, and then they see the application and all the crap they've gotta go through to be able to get one through.
I tried doing that, and it was
Did
kind
you?
of, the process was kind of a joke, if you ask me.
Yeah, and that's,
Because like, you have to get whatever, then you have to get it appraised, or appraised whatever, what you're gonna do, or what the finished product's gonna be. And then they're only gonna do like 80% of it, they're not gonna do the whole thing.
yeah, I don't
So
know
there's
all
all
of them. I
kinds
know,
of
I know the
stupid little-
improvements have to be at least half of the assessed value of the property, so you can't just go in and take a house and slap some new paint and stuff on it and say, oh yeah, we used it for rehab. It's gotta be at least 50% of the assessed value. Like I said, there's a ton of hoops. Most of your contractors are gonna say, I'm already busy enough. So I don't know, we met NCDC, if we have to be the applicant on something, and then work with some contractors who can try to get it done, I don't know,
So
it's
there-
been pretty frustrating.
There are some communities that are making it work, so I've been trying to visit, get in touch with those communities, talk to them, see if they have some special mojo going that, you know, we can try to replicate, you know, or, you know, in a lot of cases where they're successful, they have a partnership with a developer or
Yeah.
a contractor or
That
something.
has crews there and will do,
I talked to Green Gables, to what you're talking about, and they had done some duplexes in different areas. And he said the only way it pencils is if you get some grant. Without some grant, you're going tits up.
and I know we've talked to one who said they would do duplexes, but had to guarantee we do 3 of them, six units, 3 duplexes. We don't have the budget with that to do that, so that throws that out. I just said, we're open to any ideas. If, you know, we were even thinking outside the box. I put a cabin in over in Boyd County, a log cabin that was Amish built and got delivered, and it was very reasonable cost-wise, and it's just not very big. It's just around 600 square feet, but we thought for some of these tiny lots that we have with these old dilapidated houses where we've already taken care of the dilapidated house, and now we've got this small little lot that you really can't build a modern house. We even thought about bringing something like that in as a single person. If you're just out of school starting out, it might get you into a place to get started, and then as you know, as your family grows, then you look elsewhere. But just trying to think of something that we can do to put on, you know, that works.
Bad thing about it is you don't get much for $100,000.
No, that's,
What was the square footage I built out north was 800, it was 800, and it was 900,000.
So can you use the funds like to buy a modular house then, or?
yeah,
Yeah.
they can apply for new construction. And then basically, all the
Yeah, but
rural
you're-
workforce housing
Can you-
is
can
a
you get that
construction loan.
pre-built? Can you use it for a pre-built thing and bring it in like that?
Yeah, you can, there's gonna be some city, like, there's some city zoning things, like, there's, city zoning has to be a certain number of square footage, you'd have to wanna go before the Board of Adjustment, try to request variances before you'd even move forward, so you'd wanna, we'd want it to go to the Board of Adjustment and then to you guys to say, hey, are you okay with, with a variance on some of these if we go below the building codes on some of the size things and.
You bring in a manufactured home, it'd be really hard to have somebody buy, because it requires a ton down, and they depreciate almost faster than a car, I swear.
And even those were stupidly expensive
Yeah,
right
they're
now.
pretty high.
Yeah, and that doesn't include
Any of your
foundation
Yeah,
or
yeah,
anything
any of
like
your
that.
interior work, yeah,
I
it's
still
just
say
horrible.
a guy can still build them comparable to what you can get them for, so.
If we had people that, if we had,
Make the application simpler.
that's
Then I
why,
would
we'd
either-
love to, cause we want the money out the door. I mean, unfortunately, it's not our application we've got
I've
to
looked into
use.
it, I've looked into it.
Yeah.
To building some of these lots, and like I was talking with Dustin, it doesn't pencil
Yeah.
out.
That's unfortunately what we're kinda running
And
into.
duplex thing, who wants to invest that kind of money and get that much, it takes that long to get paid back because you're doing it by a rental. It's about gotta go into something you can just build and sell.
Yeah, and like a duplex, I would think you'd almost want two families who are willing to work together. You stick the garages in the middle with the houses on either
Yep.
side of the garages or your buffer, and have both units sold, but you've got your signed agreements on if the roof needs shingled, or if, I would think, I think it'd be tough to try and find somebody who would be willing to buy a duplex to live in half of it and then to try to rent the other
Right.
half.
And it just takes
cost-
too many years to get your money back.
Yeah, especially if you're financing it right now,
Yeah.
so. Those are some of the hurdles we're running into. I wish I had better news, and like I said, we're open to any ideas. Anybody that wants to think outside the box on how we can make it work, because the last thing I wanna do is our board is to have to say, we can't find a way to put this money to work. It was a huge application, it was a great land for the community to get that money from the state. Gotta be able to find a way to do something with it.
And I agree with
Get it
Dustin,
working.
I've looked at several out of the many dilapidated houses. There is some that can still be saved. And the application is just insane.
Yeah, and
We
then
can
there's
modify that
there's
somehow.
lead-based paint stuff that you've gotta follow, and there's so many things that just make people wanna say, I'm not messing with that. If I wanna do something, I'm gonna do it on my own. It's not great.
How much is there?
We raised 160 some odd thousand, and the state doubled that for the grant, so just shy of $500,000.
Oh, the state doubled that amount?
Doubled.
Doubled,
Yes,
that's right.
doubled it.
Okay.
It was a 2-to-1 state match, so.
If I had a chunk of ground somewhere, I could build a new house out there, but with that kind of.
Well, but then you've got, like I said,
Or is it
you've got
in the city
each
limits?
property, no. Each property has a maximum, and this is acquisition, demolition, all your other, it's like $325K. For a duplex, it goes to like, I think if you put a duplex in, it's like 500, so like 250 a unit or something. Somewhere along those lines, but it is for a single family home for this rural workforce housing, because it's not supposed to be this grandiose buildings, it's capped at 325, and unfortunately, even some of these stick-built, or these, we call them prefab or whatever, even those are coming in just stupid.
Like a Wardcraft or Heritage?
Any of them, and even, I know Kristen's gone all over to different states, to different companies, and then she gets quotes, and it's, well, we can do it, and it's $310,000 before you do any, and that's not even for something huge, that's 1,000, 1,100 square feet, somewhere around there, it's over 300,000 before you even do any of your sub work. And
You gotta
it's,
have this used up by, Greg?
what's that?
when you gotta have it used up by?
Well, I think we've got to, if we don't request, we can request an extension potentially and work with the state, but otherwise we would need applications. I think they'd need to be coming through and approved by May, I want to say, is when we need to have the funds at least committed.
You're gonna have somebody in your application process also be like there every step of the way, cause when I applied and then we got before the board, they're like, well, we need this, this, and this. I didn't know you needed this, this, and this, or I might have had it.
Yeah,
You know, like, it was like a little cheese dick 2-page application. I'm like, okay, this is simple. Well, where's this? Where's that? Where's all this numbers? Where's all these numbers? Where's your 5 years of tax returns? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
yeah, that went to that committee that they've got set up to.
yeah, so
review
like,
them.
I was so pissed when I went for that. I mean, I about just threw my laptop out the window because I had to Zoom the thing, and I was like, why are we Zooming? I thought COVID was over.
Oh, yeah, we're not privy to any of how that committee is doing anything,
So,
so.
but there was no checklist, there was no,
Mhm.
excuse my language, there was nothing more than a cluster.
Okay, well, I can I'll say that exactly to Kristen and say, what can we do to streamline the application?
I mean,
I don't know
if
I don't know
this
if she can, or if that comes from the state
That's
or
what I'm saying,
what.
like, if this is your job or this is what you're doing, you'd be like, okay, you need this, yep, okay, got it, you need this, okay, you need to go get this. Like, make sure every I's dotted and T's crossed. No, hell no, they just threw me to the wolves and I didn't know we needed any of this stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, like I said, I'm not aware of what they're
Cause I was
looking
gonna
for.
use it for a project and I was like, you know what, I don't need this headache.
Yeah, that's what you're not, I don't think you're the only one that's had that same type of experience as far as the
But-
stuff that that they're needing to check off on these, you know, for the application. I know anytime you work with those state funds, it triples what it would be if you were just going in to a banker, a lot of times. I mean, they're gonna still want some of the same basic things, but when it's the state funds, there's a whole pile of hoops, and unfortunately, that's anything with government funds, that's the way it works, but I wish I would have an easy answer, but we've got a meeting next week, and I'll pass that along, and we've
Like
gotta figure out some way to help
I made it-
applicants.
We made it all the way to the loan committee meeting, and it was over in 5 seconds, because we didn't have
Didn't
a
have the
fraction
stuff they
of
were
what we
wanting.
needed.
Okay.
And that just drives me freaking nuts.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you. I wish I could tell you that I'd have a way to clean that up. I don't know if I do. I'll pass it along and see if there's anything we can do from our board standpoint to try to make that easier. Because like I said, we want to get the money committed and used, so.
Well, it's a good deal, I mean, what is it,
It can be if you can, yeah, if we can make it work with somebody that's willing to do it.
Gotta be a
so.
way.
Huh?
There's gotta be a way.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
So,
It's,
I can tell you
If there's a way,
I've
then I
already
can
designed it.
figure it out.
I've already drawn out and designed a 3-bedroom, bath and a half with attached garage house that I could do for $225.
Oh,
That's
God.
including everything, but that's not making no profit, obviously. And then I did the application process, it's like that's this.
same thing. Yeah, okay. I'll pass
So
it
I've got
along
one
to
ready
the
to
board.
go, we can figure it out.
Okay. And I don't like, if you wanna, and I don't know how much you're comfortable sharing with me, if you guys wanna email me or give me some info on, here are my main stumbling blocks, how can we make that better? So I don't even know, I don't even know what they're asking for on it,
There's so
so.
much stuff that we didn't have that I can't even remember it all.
Okay,
And I thought, who's in
same way,
charge?
who's
in
gonna
charge
go
of
through all
this?
that, yeah.
Yeah, like, who's in charge of this? Why didn't I know all of this information? You know, like,
we as a NCDC board did not create the application, it came from the state program. We did not go through as a board and say, okay, we've gotta have this, and we've gotta have this, and we've gotta have this, and we've gotta have this. That was, do you remember where the
I don't remember
I'm sure it just
seeing
came
any of
from the workforce housing program.
And some of it might have come from other communities.
It might have,
I
I don't know, I know as a board, we did not go through and say, well, here's everything we've gotta have on an application. From our board standpoint, we just want to put the money to work.
If it's like LB 840, it was kind of like, well, you just figured out what you needed to have to secure yourself. you know, so that if there's default or whatever, that you can,
Well, I think one of the deals was an appraisal, you had to have it all appraised by an appraisal.
Really? Yeah, I
I was
don't,
like,
well, there's
why am
another-
I here then?
Right.
You know,
I'm sure the people that gave us the money, or gave you guys the money, there should be some administrator say, ask them, say, what are the steps when we go forward, what's this person gonna need? There should be a book someplace,
I think
like you
there's a
said, the
guide.
check off.
Is there a
and stuff
guide
like
somewhere
that.
that we can get to people? I wish I had the answers to those, I don't.
There's a guide, but, you know, whether or not it says specific to, like, Ainsworth's money.
There has to be,
this is what
has to be a
you-
name on there who's in charge of it though.
Yeah,
I'd like to know who's like in charge or who you can talk to actually get all the steps filled out.
yeah.
And then I asked.
So I would have hoped Kristen would have that, but maybe she doesn't or didn't at the time, or I can't answer that, I'm sorry, I don't know. I just, like I said, I just know that from our board, we didn't create any guidelines for that program that would have automatically just turned people off to it. That's certainly nothing we
I
did at
even
the
asked
local
like,
level.
okay, can I get 3/4 of these steps done, quote unquote, pre-approved? And they're like, no, it has to be this project.
That's that committee.
So I was like, okay, let's get all this out of the way, and then, you know, so all this is in line and in check, and then,
So then
we'll
the
just
question
add
is, how much of that is state required and how much of that is just that committee wanting to see it? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. I just know none of those directives came from our local board on that application.
so, and that's the other thing, I was like, so you're wanting me to spend 800 or 1,000
You know,
bucks
an
on an
appraisal
appraisal?
that you don't know that you're ever even gonna get the whole application approved.
Yeah, I said, this don't even make no sense.
Yeah. I get it. And it's what we're running, it's why you haven't seen any money go out the door on it. Quite frankly, I think that's part of the hangup. Is it's just too, you know, burdensome an application process that people just say, screw it, I don't need to mess with it.
Well, you're gonna, you know, you're potentially gonna lose $1,000 right off the top, you may not even get this thing. And you're out $1,000.
Yeah, or you get back and you got an appraisal that you don't need for anything else.
Yeah. Get your appraisal license, we'll do like 8 or 10 minutes.
Well, I don't think we're gonna solve it
No, we're
tonight.
not, and we'll
Lisa,
keep
do you
talking
have
on it, but
anything else?
if you guys, either one of you wanna give me some things I can take to our board and just say, see what we can do to make this process easier. Either of one of you stop by anytime and we'll, cause I don't know, I don't know how it works, so I'm happy to go
Rod's
through.
yawning, it must be.
Yeah, it's time to go.
I've got Valentine.
All right, well, that's everything on tonight's agenda.
What's that? I said, we're in no hurry, because Dustin's my Valentine date. His wife's gone and mine's working, so.
Be careful, everything you say is on camera.
He's buying.
That's all I have.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take away your time.
All right, well, that's what's got on the agenda. Did you wanna?
Yeah, I'd like to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
Got a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Motion and a second. We have to call roll on that?
Yeah.
Call roll.
We just want to stop by and take some notes and just go over our board.
Kent,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad.
Motion.
I'll do what I can.
carried. We're going into executive session at 5:58. To discuss contracts.
You want this closed?
If you would, please.